They say life is like a book, right? Well, for a long time, I honestly thought I was just a footnote in someone else's. You know, the kind of character who appears once, maybe twice, to hand over a forgotten assignment or deliver a quick line. While the main characters were out there carving their epic tales of young love and rebellion, I was usually buried in textbooks, the quiet hum of fluorescent lights my only companion. But here's the thing about footnotes. Sometimes they lead to the most interesting revelations. Sometimes the quietest character ends up with the loudest impact. Life for them was a whirlwind of drama and passion. For me, it was a methodical march toward academic excellence. And as their story unfolded, a predictable tragedy of missed opportunities and squandered potential, mine began to bloom in unexpected ways. Liam dropped out, eventually becoming a local mechanic. Sarah, her grades plummeting, barely scraped into a third-tier university. And me? Well, I became a scientist at a prestigious international research institute dedicated to serving my country. Funny how life writes its own endings, isn't it? So let me tell you my story, the real one. The one where the background character found her own spotlight and, surprisingly, found love along the way. It all started when a new girl, Sarah Thompson, transferred into our class. She was from the South, with an innocent charm and a gentle demeanor that made her blush at the slightest tease. She had this ethereal quality that set her apart. Everyone liked her, especially the notorious king of the hallways in our class, Liam Henderson. Honestly, none of that concerned me. I was just a blur in the background of their high school romance novel, living a perfectly ordinary, almost invisible life, right there in the same classroom as them. Yet there was this uncanny sense of déjà vu. I'd stumbled upon an old dog-eared novel that uncannily mirrored my high school life. The male and female leads in that book were Liam Henderson and Sarah Thompson from my very own class. And me? I appeared only once in the entire book, as the physics class rep. Knowing I was just a minor character didn't make me sad. It simply fueled a peculiar curiosity. Liam would lean over Sarah's desk, a lazy, cocky smirk on his face. "Hey, little sis," he'd say. He'd heard Sarah was a year younger, and since he'd repeated a year, he was 2 years older. So he shamelessly decided to play the big brother role. I knew all of this because Sarah sat directly in front of me. Any little stir they made, I was privy to it all. Sarah's voice was soft, almost a whisper. "No, Liam, we can't. We have evening study hall. I have to study." "What are you even going to study in that evening class?" Liam would grumble. Sarah wouldn't say anything, just give him the soft, watery stare. All right, fine. We'll study," Liam would concede. Sarah, my absolute tormentor. Meanwhile, my face was blank as I put a huge check mark on my practice problems. Excellent, 120% accuracy. My focus was unwavering. He'd say he'd stay for study hall, but Sarah was just too soft-hearted. Liam would sweet-talk her for a bit, and eventually she'd give in, and they'd leave. I'd breathe a sigh of relief. If Sarah had stayed, Liam would have undoubtedly moved to sit next to her, and they'd have whispered and giggled, making it impossible for me to focus. With the peace finally restored, I'd happily pull out my physics textbook, ready to dive into my own personal love-hate relationship with the subject. Just as I was fully immersed in solving a complex problem, someone called my name. It was Ethan Miller, the quiet, aloof student in our class, and, in a way, my biggest rival. Before Ethan, I was always at the top of our grade. But ever since I got into Northwood High, I'd felt suffocated, constantly overshadowed. I wasn't discouraged, though. The more I was surpassed, the harder I tried. But the harder I tried, the more I seemed to fail. Wherever he was, I was always number 2.
always second best. There were times I felt utterly desperate. I studied so intensely that my biological clock got messed up, and I ended up in the hospital. My mom, worried about the pressure, asked if I wanted to transfer. I refused. Running away from difficulties was no different from being a coward. That day, standing at the classroom door, I looked up at him. "Is something wrong?" I asked. He handed me a stack of papers. "This is the registration list for the advanced math competition and practice problems. The school will be holding the exam soon." I lowered my head, clutching the papers. Ethan noticed my shift in emotion. "Are you all right?" he asked. I took a deep breath. "It just feels a bit pointless. It'll probably be you first, me second, again." Now, if it had been anyone else with a shred of emotional intelligence, they would have offered encouragement. But Ethan was clearly in the EQ undeveloped category. He just grunted, a sound that conveyed absolute confidence. Even though I knew he wasn't intentionally showing off, I still wanted to punch him. I dropped my fake smile. "Ethan, I will definitely defeat you." I'd said this countless times before. He just grunted again, adding after a pause, "Good luck." Good luck! I was seething. That insufferable boy. I walked a few steps, then suddenly remembered the physics question I couldn't solve. I turned around, my textbook in hand, and rushed back to him. "Wait, I want to ask you about this problem." Ethan stopped. He glanced at the problem, and in less than a minute, he started explaining. As I listened, I felt a familiar pang of frustration. You could take a little longer to think about it," I grumbled. He paused. "Sorry, should I explain it again from the beginning?" "No, just get on with it," I snapped. Just then, Liam Henderson and his friends walked past us, laughing and joking. Liam waved at me. "Hey there, physics whiz." I merely nodded, then quietly lowered my head, focusing back on Ethan. We passed each other like two parallel lines, destined never to intersect. I'm incredibly stubborn. Everyone knows that. If there's something I don't want to do, you don't even need to ask. But once I decide to do something, I have to do it perfectly. It's this stubbornness that always kept me at the top, especially in my studies, until Ethan Miller showed up. My teachers used to tell me, "Eleanor, Ethan is a boy, so his logical thinking is naturally better. You're already doing very well." It felt like a quiet reinforcement of outdated stereotypes. Many people also said it was normal for girls to struggle with science subjects. Why did I need to compete so fiercely? But I wasn't convinced. I wanted to break the stereotypes.
The harder I tried, the more I realized the true gap between a genius and an ordinary person. Ethan truly was a genius. Many difficult problems he could grasp just by glancing at them. I, on the other hand, had to practice many similar variations before I could finally understand. Yet, if I accepted mediocrity just because someone was better than me, I would truly lose forever. As a character in one of my favorite anime once said, "If you believe you have no talent, then you truly won't have it for your entire life." Talent is something that can be honed and developed. Everything can be practiced and improved. Thinking like that, I rewarded myself with a brand new set of math problems. Northwood High wasn't too strict about checking evening study, but Liam Henderson and his crew were a bit too lax. The dean unexpectedly caught their group skipping class. 6 of them were punished. They had to write self-criticism reports and read them aloud in front of the entire school during morning assembly. Sarah Thompson was apparently red-eyed and tearful when she heard about the punishment. Liam tried to console her. "What's the big deal? I've been punished loads of times. It's just reading a report, that's all. High school is boring if you've never written a self-criticism." Sarah choked back tears. "But I've never been punished before. I don't know how to write one." "No problem." Liam thumped his chest.
Writing self-criticism reports is my specialty. Monday morning, after the flag ceremony, Sarah Thompson was the first one called up. Trembling, she began, "Hello, everyone. My name is Liam Henderson." The entire school erupted. Laughter and teasing boomed. Sarah burst into tears on the spot, running back to her class. I stood behind them, feeling utterly uncomfortable. I have an extreme allergy to stupidity. If you can't even read a self-criticism report correctly, why are you crying? What happened next was even more dramatic. When it was Liam Henderson's turn, he lazily strolled up to the microphone, speaking in an arrogant tone. Near the end of his report, he suddenly raised his voice. "Today, I want to announce something. Sarah Thompson, I like you. Be my girlfriend." The entire school exploded. Liam Henderson's public confession was like a bold brushstroke in our dull high school life. The flag ceremony, which usually lasted only 30 minutes, was extended by another 20 minutes because of this romantic spectacle. I was genuinely getting annoyed. Confessions and romantic dramas were their business, but disrupting school order and affecting others was unacceptable. If I didn't get into an Ivy League, would they take responsibility? Finally, under the principal's booming voice, the storm temporarily subsided. As the dismissal was announced, I was still lost in thought about a math problem. Liam Henderson and Sarah Thompson approached my spot, lost in their own world. Liam squinted, a smug grin on his face. "Hey there, physics whiz," he called out. I paid him no mind, simply leaning to one side, my brow furrowed as I continued to ponder the math problem. After that earth-shattering confession, Liam Henderson received a stern reprimand from the school, but he didn't seem to care. He'd won over Sarah. Ever since they started dating, Sarah also seemed to grow bolder. Skipping evening study with Liam became almost a habit. The results of the most recent monthly exam were just announced. As usual, I was first in my class and second in the entire grade. My classmate nudged me. "You're amazing! Second in the whole grade again." I felt a little happy, not because of the praise, but because the score gap between Ethan and me had finally shrunk to under 10 points. I loved the feeling of giving my all for a goal, the process of gradual accumulation leading to a qualitative change. I knew I was slowly but surely surpassing my past self. I glanced down at the rankings. Sarah Thompson wasn't even in the top 30. She had only transferred last month, and back then, she was 12th. Skipping class every day for romance, it was understandable that her academic performance would decline, but I didn't expect it to plummet so quickly. I had once naively thought Sarah Thompson might be a potential rival. It honestly made me laugh. Sarah was called in for a private conversation, and when she returned, her eyes were red and swollen. Liam rushed over to console her. Sarah, in a rare outburst, angrily said she wanted to break up. "You're just distracting me and affecting my studies." This time, no matter how much Liam tried to sweet-talk her, she wouldn't calm down. I suddenly felt a good impression of her. This girl had some backbone. Seeing that Sarah wasn't paying attention to him, Liam glumly returned to his seat. In the days that followed, Sarah quietly stayed put. I diligently studied, earnestly solving problems, and thanks to my positive study attitude, I received many compliments from teachers. On Friday, Ethan and I represented the school in the advanced math competition. Walking out of the exam room, I felt a complicated mix of emotions. "Did you solve the last question?" I asked. Ethan replied, "Yeah, the answer is chip." I sighed. Figures. I guess I'll be second again. On the way back, we walked and chatted. I was mostly the one initiating the conversation. "What practice books are you using lately?" I asked. He listed a few book titles. I silently made a mental note of the ones I hadn't tried yet. I needed to work even harder. Back in class, I immediately went into beast mode with my practice problems. On Monday evening during study hall, after class, I went to the office to get some physics practice tests. Just as I reached the corner of the hallway, someone suddenly pulled my wrist hard. The papers in my hand scattered everywhere. I instinctively frowned. It was Liam Henderson. His face was unshaven, tired, his eyes bloodshot, and he clearly smelled of alcohol. "Why won't you look at me just once? I like you," he slurred. In this situation, I was at a disadvantage. I tried to suppress my anger. "Liam Henderson, I'm Eleanor Vance, not Sarah Thompson. You have the wrong person." "No way! How could I be wrong?" Liam suddenly became agitated. He leaned down as if to kiss me. "I truly like you. Please give me a chance." I was cornered. I struggled but couldn't break free. Just as he leaned in, I turned my head away, then swiftly kicked him in the groin.
He immediately released me, his face paling, clutching his stomach and groaning. "Ow! You kicked my little buddy." I calmly pulled my leg back, my face expressionless. "Liam Henderson, if your eyes are bad, go get them checked. And if you don't need that thing down there anymore, I can help you disable it permanently." I glanced down at him with disgust. "You're a human being, not an animal. Please don't go around in heat in public." With that, I bent down, picked up my papers, and walked away. The next morning, I was shocked to find that Sarah Thompson and Liam Henderson were back together. And Sarah's vow to study hard didn't last long. She continued to skip evening study with Liam. They became even more inseparable. That night, on my way back to class from the restroom, I accidentally stumbled upon the two of them passionately kissing in a secluded corner. I instinctively lowered my head and quickened my pace. But out of the corner of my eye, I caught Liam Henderson's triumphant gaze, as if he was showing something off to me. I didn't understand anything, only a slight frown creased my brow. At that moment, I didn't realize how serious the situation was. The next morning, as soon as I entered the classroom, someone had carved insults all over my desk. Homewrecker, rotten girl, shameless flirt. My books were scattered, and someone had even smeared feces inside them. The stench was overwhelming. One of Sarah's friends, Emily, pointed a finger directly at me. "I can't believe you look so innocent, but you're nothing but a rotten homewrecker. You go around seducing other people's boyfriends. It's because of you that Sarah even tried to hurt herself." I frowned. "So all of this is your doing?" Emily paused, then lifted her head. "So what? I'm punishing the bad and promoting the good." I nodded, saying nothing more, and immediately went to find my homeroom teacher. Very quickly, Emily was called into the teacher's office. She tried to act righteous, insisting she was not wrong, but after being sternly questioned, she started to waver. Still, she refused to apologize. Finally, the teacher threatened disciplinary action. Only then did she grudgingly say, "Sorry." I nodded. "I hear your apology, but I don't accept it. I demand you be expelled." Emily shrieked. "On what grounds? I didn't do anything." I turned to the teacher. "Teacher, how do you plan to handle this? If today it had been someone weaker, if I had remained silent and endured, it's very possible that this would have escalated into serious school violence." The teacher awkwardly scratched his nose. "But it hasn't reached that point yet." I didn't want to hear it. "I just want her expelled." Emily shrieked. "On what grounds? I didn't do anything." I turned to the teacher. "Teacher, how do you plan to handle this? If today it had been someone weaker, if I had remained silent and endured, it's very possible that this would have escalated into serious school violence." The teacher awkwardly scratched his nose. "But it hasn't reached that point yet." I just want her expelled. My face was expressionless. Weeds must be pulled out by the roots. I don't believe that my forgiveness can truly make her realize her mistake.
The teacher sighed. All right, I understand. Very quickly, Emily was expelled. A few days later, Liam Henderson and Sarah Thompson still hadn't returned. Some of their supporters had initially intended to confront me, but seeing my resolute, unyielding stance, they swallowed their anger. Soon enough, I had peaceful days again, until Sarah Thompson returned to school. She came in early while students were already studying. I was reviewing English vocabulary when, unexpectedly, she suddenly knelt down in front of me, crying profusely. "Eleanor Vance," she sobbed. "Emily knows she was wrong. Can you please forgive her? She only did it because she was worried about me. She didn't mean it. Her family only has her grandmother who picks up trash to support her studies. She's truly pitiful." "So what does that have to do with me?" I asked. "Am I supposed to willingly become a target of bullying just because she's poor?" The entire class immediately fell silent, all eyes fixed on me. Before I could say anything more, Liam Henderson suddenly appeared at the classroom door. He rushed over and pulled Sarah to her feet. "If you have a problem, direct it at me. What's so great about bullying a girl like Sarah? Eleanor Vance, I'm truly disappointed in you." The class buzzed with whispers. I gently rubbed my temples. "Whether you're disappointed or not, what does that have to do with me? Are we even that close? Furthermore, Emily was expelled because she physically assaulted me and maliciously insulted my mental state. That falls under severe school violence, and according to school regulations, she should be expelled. Emily did all of this to defend you, Sarah. If you feel so much sympathy for her, why don't you withdraw from school yourself to exchange places with her?" Sarah's face immediately paled, and she didn't dare to say anything more. Liam, like a mother cow protecting her calf, glared and yelled. "All of that was Emily's doing. Sarah didn't do anything wrong. On what grounds is she expelled? You're going too far." I shrugged. "You said it yourself. Emily was wrong, so she was punished. If you don't agree, go complain to the principal's office. Coming here and forcing me to forgive is called hypocrisy. I refuse to be bound by false morality." Liam Henderson was left speechless. Just then, our homeroom teacher walked in, and the battle finally came to an end. Classes passed as usual. However, because Liam Henderson's face was so unpleasant, even the girls who usually hung out with me didn't dare to approach. I understood their predicament and quietly got up, going to the cafeteria to eat lunch alone. I was sitting, staring at my lunch tray, facing my most hated dish, stir-fried carrots that looked suspiciously like, well, let's just say I wasn't thrilled. Suddenly, someone sat down opposite me. I looked up. It was Ethan Miller. "I heard Liam Henderson and his friends were targeting you," he said. I gave a wise smile. "Bad news travels faster than good, huh?" "It's fine. I handled it. They were just being unreasonable." "Then why are you eating alone?" Ethan frowned, his voice sounding displeased, but I could feel the concern in his awkward tone. I smiled. "Eating alone helps me focus better on my thoughts." Ethan didn't say anything more. After a while, he suddenly spoke. "Why don't you transfer to my class?" I looked up, surprised, half joking. "Aren't you afraid I'll come over there, steal your study methods, and then surpass your scores?" "No, I'm not afraid. Come over. That way, you won't be affected and can focus on your studies." Ethan rarely initiated such a long conversation. I was momentarily speechless. "But my homeroom teacher probably won't agree. My academic performance directly affects his bonus." "Then you can just come to my class to study," Ethan suggested. "You'll still be registered as a student from your old class. After all, Class 1 and Class 2 share the same teachers." I nodded. "Okay, I'll go talk to my homeroom teacher." Everything went quite smoothly. Perhaps my teacher had heard about the recent incidents, because he even told me that if I changed environments, I needed to focus on my studies and not let external things affect me. And just like that, I escaped Liam Henderson and his crew and moved to the adjacent class, Class 1. When we first enrolled, the school randomly assigned classes, but in reality, Class 1's academic performance was usually slightly higher than Class 2. Therefore, Class 1 had an extremely intense study atmosphere. Everyone seized every second and every minute to study. Since seats were assigned based on academic performance, Ethan Miller, the top student in the entire grade, had his own desk. When I first transferred, he proactively suggested I sit next to him. The Class 1 teacher was also a little surprised, but very happy to agree. After class, the girl in front of me turned around to greet me. "You're Eleanor Vance, right? I've admired you for a long time. I'm Ashley Green. You probably don't know me, but I'm often right behind you in the rankings." I smiled. "You're third in the entire grade." Ashley was surprised. "Wow, I can't believe you actually recognized me. What an honor." I teased. "After all, in the top 10 science students, female students are rare." She puffed out her chest proudly. "That's right. Hey, you're really different from the rumors, you know." I nodded thoughtfully. Ashley smiled brightly. "This is great. Now both of the top 2 academic gods in the grade are right behind me. I can ask for help with problems all the time." She leaned closer and whispered, "You wouldn't believe it. Ethan Miller is truly a genius, just like the rumors say. He's super cold. When I ask him a question, he frowns as if to say, 'You don't even know this stupid problem.'" I couldn't help but laugh. Me too. Every time I ask him a question, he answers before I even have time to think, making me feel like my IQ has been trampled into the ground. Exactly, exactly. He's practically not human. Just then, Ethan, who had been quietly reading, put his book down and glanced at us. Ashley pouted. "Well, we meant for you to hear it." I chimed in. "You heard us, so are you satisfied after hearing that?" Ashley and I burst out laughing and high-fived. Ethan, of course, was too lazy to pay us any mind. Even though I had moved to Class 1, rumors about Liam Henderson and Sarah Thompson never stopped reaching my ears, especially because Ashley Green was a walking, talking gossip machine. She'd tell me how inseparable they were, how Liam brought Sarah breakfast every morning, and how the school's bad boy bowed his head for love. One day, Ashley Green turned around and whispered to me, "Eleanor, I heard it's Sarah's birthday today. Liam Henderson is going to set off fireworks at school to celebrate." I was a little surprised. "But the school doesn't allow things like that, do they?" She shook her head. "Do you think Liam Henderson is the type of person who follows rules?" Good point, I chuckled. "Well, then free fireworks show for us. Hope the big guy isn't too stingy. Make it a big display." That evening, Ethan and I, along with a few other students, were called to the teacher's office to discuss preparations for the early admission program. On the way back to class, the sky in the distance suddenly erupted with dazzling fireworks. Ethan and I stopped in the hallway. "Are you jealous?" he suddenly asked. I froze, then immediately shook my head decisively. "No, not jealous." Ethan turned to look at me. "Actually, I've always been curious. What do you like?" I was a little surprised. "I like studying. Isn't that clear enough?" Ethan chuckled softly. "What about your dream?"
Serving the country. 4 words that sounded grand, but it was truly my dream. My father was a police officer. He sacrificed his life during a mission. I once dreamed of becoming like him, but my mother wouldn't allow it. She had already lost her husband. She didn't want to lose her daughter, too. So I changed direction. Later, I want to become a scientist to contribute to my country in a different way. Ethan didn't say anything for a long time after I finished. I knew he wanted to comfort me. He just didn't know how to start. I proactively broke the silence. "What about you? What do you like?" As I asked, another cluster of dazzling fireworks erupted in the distant sky. The explosion drowned out his words. I didn't hear his answer clearly. I only saw his lips move. "Sorry, what did you just say?" I couldn't help but ask. Ethan's eyes moved slightly,
and he suddenly broke into a bright smile. "Nothing," he said. He handed me the bag he was still holding. "I just wanted to say, it seems the birthday gift I chose wasn't wrong." I froze. Oh, right. Today, besides being Sarah Thompson's birthday, it was also my birthday. But how did Ethan know? He softly explained, "I accidentally saw your information board in the office earlier." I took the gift. Inside was a practice workbook and a fountain pen. "I just bought these recently. Quality is pretty good. You should try them." I cherished the gift, touched, and said, "Thank you." We walked side by side back to the classroom. Ethan still maintained his usual half-step distance. I suddenly remembered something. "All right, Ethan," I declared again. "In the next midterm exam, I will definitely defeat you." He remained as calm as ever. Good luck. That declaration of war continued for 3 years, but I never once truly surpassed Ethan. He always remained one step ahead, a beacon of excellence that kept me striving. Soon, it was senior year, college exams nearing. I excelled in academics, becoming a top student in the state, earning my way to a prestigious university, where I pursued physics, eventually becoming a scientist, contributing to important research. Years later, I attended our high school reunion. The hall buzzed with familiar faces, some weathered by time, others barely changed. I chatted with old friends, recalling shared memories. I knew Liam Henderson had eventually become a mechanic, and Sarah Thompson, her academic dreams derailed, had married him, their lives marked by quiet struggles. I felt no ill will, just a detached understanding of how different our paths had become. As the evening wound down, I stepped out into the crisp night air, heading towards the exit. Suddenly, a figure blocked my path. It was Liam Henderson. He looked different, harder, but with a lingering desperation in his eyes. "Eleanor Vance," he said, his voice rough, hesitant. "I need to talk to you." I crossed my arms, a familiar wall rising within me. "What is it, Liam?" He took a deep breath, his gaze intense. That night, the hallway, and everything before it, the stupid grand gestures, the messing around with Sarah, it was all about you, Eleanor. My mind reeled. "What are you talking about?" "I liked you, Eleanor," he blurted out, his voice thick with raw emotion. "Since freshman year, you were so solid, so focused. Nothing bothered you. My dad was a mess, always hitting me, drinking. I was a wreck inside, trying to be tough, but I was just a scared kid. I saw you, and you were just there, studying, pushing yourself. You were strong in a way I couldn't be. I didn't know how to talk to you, how to even approach someone like you. So I tried to get your attention my way, by being loud, by being a problem, by acting like I didn't care about anything. And then Sarah came along, and she was easy. She was soft. And I thought, maybe if I made a big show with her, you'd notice. You'd see me. The whole public confession, the stunts, it was all a pathetic attempt to get your attention. And the night in the hallway, when I grabbed you, I wasn't even that drunk. I was just desperate. I knew you saw me as stupid, but I needed you to see me, period. And when you kicked me and said all those things, I hated you for it, but I also respected it. You were the only one who ever stood up to me." He paused, a strained laugh escaping him. "And then Emily, Sarah's friend, she was protective, obsessed even. Sarah was upset about her grades plummeting, and I told her you were a rival. Not the real reason I was chasing Sarah, but she took it as a personal offense. Emily overheard some of my frustrated rants about you, twisted it, and decided to punish you. Sarah knew too. She saw me acting out, saw my obsession with you, and she let Emily do it. It was a messed up game, Eleanor, a twisted, selfish game. And I'm sorry for all of it. I messed up everything." A cold anger flared in my chest, quickly followed by a deeper, more profound sadness. "You used Sarah, Liam," I said, my voice low, trembling with indignation. "You manipulated her, and you put me through hell, all for some sick game of attention. You let me be humiliated, slandered, terrorized by Emily simply because you couldn't be honest with your own feelings or because you were too cowardly to face your own problems. You destroyed Sarah's academic future, and mine was nearly compromised. Do you have any idea what that did to me, to my reputation, to Sarah's self-worth? Do you have any idea how much work it took to climb back, to clear my name, to rebuild what you so carelessly tore down?" My voice rose, the years of suppressed frustration bubbling to the surface. "You talk about your past, your dad, and I get it, but that doesn't give you the right to treat people like pawns in your emotional drama. You were selfish, Liam, incredibly, profoundly selfish." I felt a hot sting behind my eyes, a rare moment of vulnerability. And to hear this now, after all these years, it's not some grand romantic revelation. It's just a sad, pathetic excuse. My hands were shaking with suppressed fury. Suddenly, a calm, authoritative voice cut through the tension. "Liam." I turned to see Ethan Miller standing a few feet away, his expression neutral, but his eyes radiating an intense, protective presence. He hadn't said a word, hadn't raised his voice, but the way he said Liam's name was enough. Liam flinched, his bravado instantly deflating. "It's over, Liam," Ethan said, his voice low, firm. "Whatever it is you needed to say, you've said it. Eleanor has made her feelings clear. Now it's time to let her go." Liam glared at him, then back at me, a flicker of defiance in his eyes. But he could see the resolve in my face and the unwavering presence of Ethan beside me. He mumbled something unintelligible, then turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. I let out a shaky breath I hadn't realized I was holding. My entire body felt like it was humming with residual anger and shock. "Thank you," I said to Ethan, my voice barely a whisper. I don't know what I would have done." He stepped closer, his hand gently resting on my arm. "Are you all right?" His eyes, usually so cool and distant, were filled with a genuine, quiet concern. I nodded, feeling a strange mixture of exhaustion and relief. I will be. Just, that was a lot." "I heard some of it," he admitted. "Liam's always been a lost soul, acting out, but that doesn't excuse his behavior or the pain he caused." His thumb lightly stroked my arm, a comforting gesture that sent a surprising warmth through me. "You handled it well, Eleanor. You always do." We stood there for a moment, the sounds of the reunion fading into the background. I looked at him, truly looked at him. The brilliant mind, the quiet strength, the unwavering support he'd shown me, not just tonight, but throughout our high school years. He'd always been there, pushing me academically, standing by me in my quiet moments of struggle, and now protecting me from a painful past. "You know," I said, a soft smile forming on my lips, "for years, you were the goal, the benchmark. I measured all my efforts against you." He chuckled softly. "And you, Eleanor, were the one who made me realize that being number one wasn't just about the scores. It was about the chase, about finding someone who pushed you harder than you thought possible." He paused, his gaze deepening. "I chose to go into finance, and you into physics. Our paths seemed to diverge, but I always felt connected, like we were still running that race, just on different tracks." I nodded, the truth of his words resonating deeply within me. I thought my greatest achievement was my career, becoming a scientist. But lately, I've realized that the greatest accomplishments are often the ones you build alongside someone who truly understands you, who inspires you, who champions you, even when you're being a stubborn jerk. I met his gaze, a playful light in my eyes, and I think you might be that person, Ethan Miller. His smile widened, genuine and radiant. I've realized over the years that the greatest challenge and the greatest joy isn't in surpassing someone else, but in building a life alongside the person who truly defines what excellence means to you. He reached out, gently taking my hand, his touch warm and firm. You've always pushed me to be better, Eleanor, and I think I'd very much like to keep being pushed with you. And just like that, the quiet wallflower, who had once believed herself a footnote in a predetermined story, who thought her only love would be her country, realized she had not only written her own autobiography, becoming the shining main character of her life, but had found her leading man, her intellectual equal, and her steadfast partner, right there by her side, all along. The race wasn't over, but now we were running it together.